Jai Shri. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste to all of you. So we have come to the point where we said that various angles we have seen what is called as this Dharma, and it has been coming from the ancient time, from the time immemorial. It is called as Sanathana Dharma. And not only that, it is ever existing. It can be applied today also. We have seen various components of it, which is supposed to be like, for example, Nyaya, Tyaga, uh, going through the idea of ethics, and beyond that ethics, Dharma. And also finally that we have come to the idea of Indriya Nigraha, Sanyama. And that's where the Bhagavad Gita's beautiful shloka that I've quoted from Bhagavad Gita, that is Tam Vidya, you can get it only with the help of Sanyatendriyaha. Jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena adhigacchati. And he tells about that achirena adhigacchati. That's something which is going beyond kind of a thing to reach that. And this is what we have seen in the form of Dharma, various components. And then we have basic idea of this questioning that has come up in the area. Why do I follow Dharma? And that's what is the basic question everybody asks. Why should I tell truth? Why should I tell lie? Why should I have the sensory control, Indriya Nigraha? I can just go free. And freedom is the birthright. So therefore, you cannot, in the name of Dharma, come in the way of my freedom of using this senses, sensory organs, and sensory objects. So what is the answer for that? Because I said that this discipline is there in almost all the religions, some degree or the other. Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism. I said various places how this sensory control is there. But now this very question comes up that in the name of Dharma, that you cannot take away my freedom, my involvement with these things, and what is the answer for that? And the best answer that could somebody give us that Jesus Christ said, therefore you have to follow. Bible says that you follow. Our Quran says that therefore you should follow. If you don't do it, that we will punish you because we are the custodians of Quran, custodians of Islam, custodians of Christianity. Therefore, we do that. In the Indian culture also, it is like that. The parents will say that, my father did it, my grandfather did it, they said it, and we followed that, said you should also follow that. So this is how the insistence, but logically we have not given an answer. But there are 3-4 points that I would like to raise about this point. Why we have to answer this question is that if we say anything that we say, you just believe, you just accept it because somebody said it, then everywhere, every religion, everybody takes the similar stand. Like tomorrow, he says that somebody's dream, somebody appeared and then said it, therefore that you must follow. In my dream, somebody appeared and said it, so that you should follow. So what is the answer for that? So anybody can take advantage of that. That's the reason why it becomes like, this is what is called as a blind faith. That means to say, you don't question it. And if you don't question it, that's the faith in that particular religion, dharma, people will lose it. And that's what is happening now, essentially, that many people lose their faith in religion or in dharma. Christianity's people, that they don't follow Christianity anymore. Islam, definitely there are ex-Muslims coming out, in spite of the fact that they use the real hard stick to see that they held people in dharma. But then in spite of it, same way, Indian also youth question these things, and then If you don't answer, then the people lose in that Indian. Particularly in the case of Sanatana Dharma, there are so many things that are there that we follow, and everything can be questioned. Like, for example, small little simple things that why I wear this bindi to anything like that. Why do I do fasting? Why do I follow this thing? Why do I follow that? Why do I respect my parents? So all these questions are part of this Dharma. Particularly in the case of Indian culture, it becomes much more important because basically the same texts which have given us the social aspects of life, like for example, whether it is the uh, mm, house building to anything that is there part of the Vedas, and the same Vedas also give us these ideas of the Sanatana Dharma. So therefore, that we are in particularly in the other cultures that the adherence is not, the social norms are not so adhering to the dharmic concern about that. Like for example, Christianity, it doesn't insist on what kind of dress that you wear. In Islam, of course, these days this hijab and things like that has come. Other than that, there is not much of a restriction about that. But in Hinduism, it is very strong about these particular things, that people have to wear a particular kind of a dress when you do the puja or when you go to the temple, when you do these things. So now so many things can be questioned. So therefore, that there is big scope in the Indian philosophy that questions can be asked. And normal people cannot answer these questions. Or simple way that people can say is that you believe because I said it, or it is said in some text or the other. There is one very common thing people say, Shastras say about it. And which Shastra, they don't even know what Shastras is. So therefore, Shastra says that you should follow. Now, all these questions have to be, if we need to have questioned that, because basically that this culture has provided a very great importance to this logic. That's why the earliest of the shastras that we have created is the Nyaya Shastra. Nyaya means actually logic, and we are given the clear principles about the Nyaya, how you have to question, what are the kind of questions that you do it. So therefore, threadbare that we have encouraged questioning. Not only that, Upanishads also give ample scope for questioning. In fact, that aspect of the discussion that goes on between the student and teacher is the Upanishad. So Upanishad can find an answer. Normal textbooks cannot give an answer for these questions. Therefore, that the highest of the knowledge that we have in the Sanatana Dharma, which is supposed to be the Upanishad knowledge, only Upanishad will give an answer. But then if you go to the Upanishad, they are such tough subjects, they are such tough books that you just do not have the question answer like the way that you look at the math book and the last pages that you go, the question and answer are given there in the form of a reference. Like that, we don't have an answers. We have to really derive an answer from these scriptures. So that's why very important it is the Upanishads. But now, what is, apart from this Upanishad, we have so much of knowledge that is there in this particular culture, such an amount of knowledge that is there that, in fact, I see that invaders' main focus is on to destroy our knowledge and to see that how that knowledge has been either destroyed or disowned or eliminated. So this is what the trial that has been there right from the beginning of this particular creation. A lot of people have come to do that. So I will tell you about what is all this literature that we have in this culture and what is the place of Upanishad, and also to see that how that this vast literature, why, how many times that people try to destroy that. I'll give you the whole historical background behind it. After giving all those things, then only I will come back to that question, why Dharma? So let me give this idea that many people mentioned all over the world that earliest of the human literature is Vedas. So these four Vedas we have, the Vedas are four, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. These four Vedas are the basic literature of this particular culture. Not only the Vedas are there, but there are so many other texts are there. But Vedas seem to be the basic texts that are there. And these texts are written in Sanskrit. And Sanskrit itself is such a wonderful language that if somebody has invented a language like Sanskrit, and then somebody has written all this knowledge. That means what an extraordinary, wonderful culture this has been. Let me give you the first important idea about why I said that Sanskrit is a very extraordinary language compared to all the languages of the world. There is such a scientific approach in the Sanskrit that is there. If Sanskrit has that kind of an ability to answer the questions, then naturally this culture has the ability to answer these questions. In fact, in only in the Sanskrit, I don't know how in other languages they answer it like a table, you call it as a table. In English, you can ask him why you call it as a table. Then they will look at us, our face, and say that why are you asking this question? Because as if that is accepted. Whereas in Sanskrit, it is not like that. You can question anything, everything. Like, for example, earth. I don't know why in English we call it as earth. What is that which brings about this meaning that it is earth? But in the Indian culture, in Sanatana Dharma, it is called as Prithvi. That means to say that which supports is supposed to be Prithvi. The very word meaning, when you go to the root of it, then you can find it. Pritha. That's what is something you can know. So therefore it can be questioned. So everything can be questioned in Sanskrit language because the language itself is so wonderful. Let me give an idea how I say that Sanskrit is so logically presented. It can be questioned like that. I was giving a seminar in Germany, and there are people attending this seminar, and then there was the doctor there, chief of that. He was translating my talk into German language, and then people were listening to it. This is what was going on, and then dinner time. This one lady came and sat in front of me, and she said, "Raghuram, your talks are very good. I really enjoyed." When she said like that, then I realized, oh, you speak English. I thought everybody is German. No, no, I speak English, and a couple of others also speak English. Oh, very nice to know that. So that means you have a double advantage. One is that you listen to my gen, in English talk, and also you listen to the translation in German. So two times that you heard. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have that advantage. Then in conversation developed that she said that actually she's an English teacher coming from England, living in Germany, and working in the schools or teaching English, and then translating English and all that. These things that she did, that's her job. Oh, I said, I'm so glad to know that somebody who is professionally English speaking, coming from England, so naturally English is your mother tongue, is your root language. Yes, yes, English is my root language. I have few questions for you. Can you answer me about the English language? She said, yes, you can do it. Then I said, like you call in English, A, E, I, O, U as vowels, and other things are consonants and all that. Then why in English language that you keep this A, E, I, O, U in between the alphabets? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, somewhere in between it comes. Why do you not separate them out? Like one line as A, E, I, O, U, finish it. Afterwards, the other letters that can you bring it out? Why don't you have that kind of thing? Is there a reason for that? She said, oh, you know what? There must be some reason. And oh, it's an interesting question. And she mumbled for about next 10, 15 minutes, and then she couldn't come out with an answer. Then she said, I'll have to think about it, and I'll come back with you tomorrow with the answer. Oh, okay, tomorrow you're giving an answer, then can I ask you one more question also? He said, yeah, what is that? It's about English language only. It's very simple. I'm a very ordinary, simple person, so I'll ask simple questions. He said, what is it? You see, in alphabets, you say that, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Why do you have that order? After B, C should come, C, D should come, and E come. Why not we have any other, R, P, K, C, T, or something like that, in some order, something like that. Oh, yeah, that there must be some reason why that order is there. Yeah, that's what I'm asking the question about. Oh, yes, there must be some reason why that should be there. Yes, again, another 10, 15 minutes, she struggled. I said, tomorrow morning, I will answer for both these questions. Oh, anyway, tomorrow morning you're answering. So can I ask one more question? No, 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 it's enough. It's too enough for me tonight. Next morning, she came to my breakfast table and then she said, Raghuram, you took away my sleep whole night. I didn't sleep. I said, why? What happened? I said, I was thinking about your questions. But did you find an answer? I said, I didn't find an answer. That means there is no answer for that. Yeah, I don't think there is any answer for that. It's just casual like that, just arbitrary like that. That you could have said yesterday itself so that you could have slept nicely. What you would have accepted it? What else can I do? Somebody from England, somebody is an English mother tongue and all that, and then you are teaching English also. And if you say that there's no answer, I know that there is no answer. You are very bad, she said. And afterwards, some little pause, she went out and then came back and said, Raghuram, why did you ask this question? I said, should I not ask these questions? I said, no. Nobody asked these questions. Why are you asking? I said, nobody asked the question doesn't mean that I should not ask the question. Yeah, but there must be some reason. No, there is no reason. Just like that, I asked. No, you are you are hiding something. There must be some reason. She insisted. I said, yeah, the world there may be language where there is particular order, not one language, about 25 languages which are there, the same particular order. There is vowel separate and consonant separate. What language it is? I said, all the Sanskrit-based language, all Indian languages. You see that all the vowels we have separated, I, and then kaka, kaka, then this consonant. And we also named vowels are the letters where that we don't use the lips. So that means it's just a sound because you don't use lips. Wow. And consonants are the articulation that there comes, and then there's an order why we have the order in which that letters come. Wow. Such a wonderful language it is. Such an extraordinary language. And then she said, I don't think that we can improve Sanskrit. Yes, it has been there for 10,000 years, and you can't improve this language. So this is the beauty of this Sanskrit. And if Sanskrit language itself is so logical, you can question even why the letters come where. You mean to say that in this culture, whatever that happens, can we not question it? Can we say that you just accept that Vishnu is there with four hands and somebody is there on the elephant head and all that? Can we not question it? We can question everything in this particular language. We have a courage in this culture to have the questions. So therefore, we have this extraordinary, wonderful thing. Because that we question, therefore that we have such an extraordinary, wonderful literature that is there. In fact, all this literature that is there part of this culture. It was a way of life. And this way of life has come from more than 10 to 20,000 years. And now, don't believe, then we can always question that we don't have to believe saying that some God has given us this knowledge, so therefore the Vedas are created. No. In fact, the way that I look at these Vedas, this may be like this culture is so vast, so beautiful, so deep that was there. Some wise people who understood this culture, who gone into the depth of this culture, because that they know that they are called as the Vyasa. Vyasa means a broader sense that they understand is supposed to be Vyasas. It's not one Vyasa, a group of Vyasas. They collected all this information. So it looks like the way that I look at it, some group of people, they maintain the diary of whatever that's happening in this particular culture. It's a way of life. So one group went into the northwestern area, which is supposed to be Rigveda. Another group, northern part, and that's what is Yajurveda. Northeastern part is Samaveda, and central and southern part is the Atharva Veda. So these four Vedas are nothing but the compilation of all that what is going on in this culture, and whatever that's happening is compiled in the form of these books. When somebody meant, why I say that it's a diary or it's an account of whatever that's happening in this culture, you see that in a diary that you don't have the topics and subjects in the topic wise. It just like for example, somebody maintains a diary when it comes to Prashanti, our residential campus. And, the bus will come and then collect and bring people will come here. And then morning, everybody gets up at 5 o'clock and does yoga. And some milk van comes So that means haphazard way things are recorded. The same way in Vedas, that there are several things that are recorded about the housekeeping, about the house architecture, to a temple construction, to house the dress or the metallurgy. So many things are recorded in that. Everything that is there, you can see in the form of various sciences, are found in the Vedas. But when you look at these Vedas, all these four Vedas, you can see the glimpses of it in two different ways. One is a large amount of literature which is about the way of peripheral activities, like for example, how the cooking, how the building, how the house is, this, that, and all that. These are all the peripheral activities. But then this people of this particular culture were living for a particular purpose of life, goal of life. And that core activity, purpose, goal of the life, is what is called as the central portion, which is supposed to be Jnana Kanda. Activity portion is Karma Kanda, central portion is Jnana Kanda, which is supposed to be the core of this culture. One person who very clearly talked about this core of this culture is Vivekananda. When somebody asked at the Parliament of World Religions, you said that you represent the oldest of the culture and the youngest of the nation. And also you said that this culture survived, where other cultures have all gone into the history, but this culture is still vibrant. What's the reason for this culture to survive? Your culture of Sanathana Dharma to survive. Vivekananda replied at that time one beautiful sentence. He said, every culture has a narrow current. And it is that narrow current, that the central core, based on that, that culture survives. When Vivekananda said that in just a simple sentence, he's always like that, very brief, but very deep. When you look back, look into the world, that you can see the world culture, same way. Every culture is an organ. You see, cultures that were there at the time when our Indian culture was vibrant, Babylonian culture, Mesopotamian culture, they are all gone into the history. Roman culture, it was one time so great. But then what happened to the Roman culture today? Ephesus is gone, finished. Now the Roman culture doesn't exist. Greece does not contain anymore their culture, protect their culture. Of course, some people consciously destroyed the cultures, like in Native American culture. But then the core of that culture that you can see, even today, the cultures that are existing, you can see the core. Like, for example, England, when you see it, the regality is its core of the culture. That's why in England, everything is done in the name of uh, the, the royal family. That's why you can see the Trafalgar Square, Buckingham Palace, and Her Majesty's Postal Service and train service. Everything is in the name of reality. It's a wonderful thing. That's a nice thing that they have a discipline about that king and then king. That's why the king's family, there is wedding, then it is like the celebration of the whole country. Never happens in any other place. It happens in England. The same way when you go to Germany, the core of that culture is the sturdiness. You can see the cars, you can see the machines that come in from Germany. They're so sturdy, very difficult, and they're very strong. You can be assured about that. That's why they have the roads which are autobahn. There is no upper speed limit. You see that you take your Suzuki there, finish. You cannot drive on that road. You need that kind of vehicle, sturdy vehicle that is there. The same thing when you go to Japan, the core of the Japanese culture is the miniature. You look at everything small. That, like, for example, America has big roads, Japan has small roads, but equally efficient. America has big cars, Japan cars are small cars. Everything is. India has a big mango tree. They have bonsai mango tree, giving fruits again. Not only that, look at the way Japan, that even king, queen also, the shortest person that they have selected to be the king and queen. So everything is miniature, but very efficient, extraordinary, wonderful. If you go to America, American core culture is in the form of business. What others do not realize that as business, America immediately can make business out of it. I've taken Neti pot and then give people, just $1 a piece like that. 2 years later, when I went there, they found out nice, wonderful packed Neti pot. And they're selling that. And they have given a very fancy name also. Nasal irrigation equipment. And $10 a piece, $20 a piece. Wow. I can make a business out of it. When I started going for yoga, taking yoga wear and all that, people used to like the yoga, the way I was giving. But in 2 years that I found out the whole uh, vocabulary change. They said, oh, you are doing yoga? Oh, it's a $4 billion business. I never thought yoga is a business. But then they talk in terms of business. That's what is the worker culture. With the same way, when you come to the Indian culture, the core of Indian culture, you can see anywhere to anywhere, the temples. You can see anywhere to anywhere, the rituals. You can see so many things that are happening. And where is that? The basis for all these things, because any activity that is there, it has to have science as a basis, or it has the knowledge as its basis. So for all these things, whether we have the temple, we have gods, we have these things, the basis for that is Upanishads. That's why Upanishad becomes core of this particular culture. That's what Vivekananda said. India survived, the culture, Sanatana Dharma survived because it's core of the culture. And that core of culture is the Upanishads. And Upanishads are supposed to be the core of these Vedas. So therefore, the Karma Kanda is the peripheral activity, and the core of it is Jnana Kanda. Jnana Kanda means basically these Upanishads. Now, what is this basic Upanishads? Again, you question it. And not many people come to these questions and try to answer these questions and move ahead in this direction. Very few people. Large base is this particular culture, and then it's like a pyramid, and at it comes up, upper and upper. Few people practice few things, few people inquire. Finally, that there are few people really, they're caught up with these questions. Questions become very important, and they go deep into these questions. What are these questions? What are this importance of these questions? These are some basic fundamental questions of us and eternal questions. When I say fundamental questions, they go to the origin of the creation. And second thing is they are eternal questions because the question somebody answers will not go away. It still survives. That's the beauty of this particular culture, core of this culture. So what are these questions? Like, for example, going to the basis of that question itself. Like everybody has this, and it's for common man. Everybody has, there's a regular day-to-day life question. Like, what is the question? The question comes, what happens after death? This is a question that everybody has it. Particularly, of course, when you read in the newspaper or TV that you see so many people died in a train accident, it doesn't really touch you. But when somebody near and dear dies in your family, that's when it touches. Then you start seeing what happens. Particularly when you take that particular body for crematorium for final rites and all that, at that time this question comes and sitting in the crematorium, what happens after death? But this question can be peripheral way and core way. Peripheral way is what happens to the property after this death. Has he written any will or anything with that? That's not a fundamental question. Fundamental question is what happened to the person who died? So some people say that there is soul, some people say that there is no soul, which is right. And the same way that Nachiketa asked the same question to Yama, he directly goes to the Yama, the death god, and then he asks the question. People say that soul survives, some people say that soul does not survive. What is the real behind? What is the reality behind it? People come to ask me also that you say, Raghuramji, do you believe that the souls exist? And I say that no, there is no soul exists at all. Somebody dies means finish, over, everything. It's like select all, delete. Completely clean the whole process. And that's what happens. Oh, do you think like that? Yes, 100% I'm sure about that. And that person will go to somebody else and will ask the same question, saying that Raghuram says soul will die. Everything, nothing will be there and all that. Do you also believe that? Look at the way, one way or the other, if I say soul exists, if I say soul doesn't exist, the question will not die. That's why these questions are eternal questions. Where from this creation comes? 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, Upanishad asked this question, fundamental question. Yato vayumani bhutani jayante, ena jatani jivanti, yat prayanti abhisamvishanti. Can you please tell me where does it come? How does it manifest? These questions are asked Upanishads. Today also scientists ask the same question. There are several theories I've given, but then, like for example, somebody said that originally there was two people, Adam and Eve, and some story created, and they were there in the Eden garden, and then in that garden, then they ate a forbidden fruit. They ate, and why did they eat that forbidden fruit? It says that some angel came and told them that don't eat fruit, and then they ate the fruit. And because of that, then fall has taken place. Then the creation has started. Creation is a fall. Somebody is given that. So therefore, Adam committed a sin, Eve committed a sin, so therefore you are born out of sin. But then actually the real sinner is that angel who came and don't eat. You see, they were in that garden for eternity. It's known as God of eternity, the garden of eternity. That's what is the meaning of Eden garden. Eternity. And then they were living for eternal. Nothing happened. The fruit was also there all the time. They never ate. Only when this angel came and said, don't eat, then they were tempted to eat. So who is at fault? Who did the sin? The sin is done by the. But anyway, the politics is always like that. Somebody commits inside and somebody gets the brunt of it. So Adam and Eve, they said that they fall. So therefore, the whole creation is fall. Fine. I don't dispute any of those things, but even if the explanation has come, do you mean to say that where does this creation come? Did it stop? The question continued. So that's why these are fundamental questions. Upanishad also tries to give an answer, but then the question continues. Similarly, another question that is there, and that question is like, these questions that is, what happens after death? It's very simple. People take it very light. At that point of time when somebody dies, yes, yes, I seriously caught up with this question, but later on, it just flies off. 3-4 days later, 10 days later, then you forget about the whole thing. Whereas there are some people who have taken this question very seriously. And they try to inquire about this question to the core. That is what is Upanishad. Like, for example, Siddhartha also, he came across a dead body. First time that he came across a dead body, and he looked at it and said that, what is that people are carrying this person? They're not carrying him, he's dead. They're carrying the body. What do you mean by death? He didn't even know what is death. I said, no, the person is not existing anymore. He dies. Everybody goes through death. You also die, I also die. That is what Siddhartha asked Chinna, his friend. I said, yes, we all die. Everybody dies. My God, everybody dies. Let's go back to palace. Rushed back to the palace because the question was so serious for him. And he goes running to the palace inside, and then he sees his father. His wife is there waiting for him to come for dinner. He asks, the Chinna says that we all die. One day we all die. You know that we all die? Father says, yes, we all die one day or the other. Anyway, let's go and have food together. See, that means what is so serious question to him is not even a question for his father. His wife, she did not even bother about this question. But then this question was so serious for Siddhartha that night he could not stay. One day child, a just born child, he left that boy, went away, leaving the palace out. He went along with his friend halfway, asked the friend, take the chariot back. I'm going into the forest. He said, what a beautiful way that Chennai said. He said, people, they crave to be born in families like this, in the riches like this, in the palaces. They crave to be born in palaces, whereas you are fortunate to be born in palace and you leave this palace and going away. Is it not something that you are foolish? Think of it. But Siddhartha said, the palace is burning. Because every day is nothing but you are entering closer to the death, which means nothing but burning fire. Chinna didn't even understand what Siddhartha said. He went away. And he went all the way to Bodh Gaya and sat down there, meditating on this question, what happens after death? 7 days later, he came back with an answer, with a peace of mind. When he came back home, his father was still angry. He said, "You left everything and went away. You did not have any. You did now all this big kingdom, all this possession, everything that is there for you. You are the only son for me. I don't want to give you now because you left everything and went away." Buddha smiled. Siddhartha smiled. By the time he came, Buddha, he smiled. He said, "I didn't want anything. That's why I left. Now I know that your arrogance, you don't want anything. But if your son asks something, what is there for you to give?" Then Siddhartha smiled and said his father, Shuddhodana, "Yes, let my son ask." Then he actually pushed his grandson, Rahul. He said, "Go and ask your dad what he can give you." And then Rahul, 8-year-old boy, he comes to dad and says, "Baba, what can you give me?" Buddha had a begging bowl and he gave it to him. He said, "This is what I have come." Now Siddhartha made him his disciple. Now the father, Shuddhodana, started beating his bro, saying that, "I thought I lost my son, now I lost grandson also." So both of them went away, and later on they became the Buddha Bhikshus. So this is what somebody's seriousness, if you take this question seriously, these questions have a potential to make one Siddhartha into a Gautam Buddha. Similarly, another very important question, who am I? This is a fundamental question. We all use this I, right, left, and middle. I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm disturbed, I'm this, I'm that. And I need this promotion so that I'll be called as engineer, I'll be called as chief engineer, I'll be called as chief this thing. So like that, we all look for that. There's a very nice story about that. So a villager, a big man in the village himself, and then go to him. A visitor went to him and said that, yeah, so I came to you, find out certain reasons and all that. He said, "Arey," he asked us, say, "Hey, collector, bring a chair for the guest who has come." And then the boy brought a chair for him. And then he sat down and then said, "Magistrate, arrange for him some cup of coffee, chai." And another boy comes and organizes for this. And this boy wondered, this guest wondered. He said, "What is this? Your one son is magistrate and one son is collector, another son is minister, and third is the uh, chief justice. And what is this? Fourth justice." He said, "I had an ambition in my life that I should be called as so-and-so's father. Now at least people call me that, chief justice father, collector's father. So I have named them these things so that I'll be called. So it's my passion to be called like that." So these are the passions. You are identified with that. Who is this I? This question is very serious. One person by name Venkatamana took this question seriously when he was hardly 14-year-old. And then he took up this question so seriously, he went away from the house, sat down in the temple, meditated for long years, and became Ramana Maharshi. So these are the fundamental questions. Upanishads deal with the fundamental questions. We have now, what is this Upanishad? Why do they call it as Vedanta? Veda is the whole cultural background behind it, this whole culture that is there. But the purpose of this culture is to see that motivate people to ask these questions. Like, for example, somebody comes to Prashanti, that in the diary that they have so many things that are there happening in Prashanti, like a milk fellow comes and then some kitchen, something happens, breakfast happens, and then some bells ring. All these things are there. Though there are several activities that are going on, but all these things have come one particular core activity, and that core is supposed to be yoga. Whether it is milk fellow that comes to see serves milk in the kitchen fellows active also seems, or the gardener doing all these gardens. It is for what reason? For the people to come and learn about yoga, get the benefits of yoga, and then take the heights of yoga. Yoga is the core of this culture. The same way, Upanishads is the core of the culture. So that means basic purpose of goal of this particular culture is yoga. Veda is this culture, and the purpose is what is called as Vedanta. Anta is not end. Anta is not is actually the fulfillment. When one of the meanings of Anta is end, therefore people say it is Vedanta. The book of Veda that you take and the last pages you turn that you find Vedanta, you don't find that. You don't find that in the last page. It is there embedded somewhere in between. We have several Upanishads embedded in between the Vedas, here and there that come up. These are like the peaks of Himalayas, several peaks of Himalayas, several peaks of mountain that are there. Like that, these cultures are there. In fact, literally also the sages used to sit on the peak of the mountain, and then the students would go there to sit with them and ask this question, because very few people finally have that quest for this knowledge. If you have that quest for knowledge, Upanishad will answer these questions. So therefore, that the student and teacher will sit together and exchange these ideas, and sitting together exchanging these ideas, that's why it is called as Upanishad. Upa means close proximity, together, snug fitting, and the Nischayena, Sat, the discussion that goes on about this particular thing, all these truths, ideas. It is not, but it is quest. So a question can be answered. But quest is not just stops with the answer. The quest has to have a methodology to see that you also realize. It has become your way. It has become your experience. Even small little simple thing, unless until it becomes your experience, it's not real. Like the way that you can swim on the water, you don't have to sink. You don't have to sink in the water. But then you read any amount of books on the swimming. It does not give you the knowledge of swimming. You still drown in the water. You have to learn the swimming. There should be a technique. There is a teacher to give you. Therefore, these Upanishads are like the way that the teachers who can make you to experience that. They have experience, they give you that experience. So Upanishad student teacher, when he says something, he has that experience of himself. Like a very simple thing is that if an Upanishad teacher says that everything comes from the same source called as Brahman, it is not just a word that he says, he has that experience. That's why you could lead the student to get into that experience. That's why in one of the Upanishads, the very first Upanishad, the very first shloka says, Isha vasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. That means actually this teacher is giving his experience to the student. Isha avasyam, everything is nothing but divinity, the same consciousness from which everything has come. When he says that, he is actually not saying the words. Words are only very, very inferior kind of communication. But most important thing is experience deep inside. Experience is at least about 1,000,000 times greater than the words that they say. Words cannot express whatever that experience is there. All ordinary, simple, small, little simple things that in our day-to-day life, you see that your experience cannot be conveyed into the words. Like, for example, a nice mango fruit that you eat, a season of the mango, and extraordinary, wonderful mango that you eat. It's lovely, it's wonderful. But how do you explain about that? The best explanation is it's simply wonderful, it's extraordinary. But these are all the words. It doesn't give any amount of satisfaction that you get in eating. Same way you see a beautiful flower and you feel that beauty of that flower, but you can't explain that. So therefore, that the words fail actually to give that expression, but the experience is something. Words are simple means to communicate. In fact, when Buddha had that experience, he became silent. He never said anything. Everybody is eagerly waiting when Buddha will come out and say something. But then he was quiet. After almost like 7 days, then some sages, they said, why don't you speak something that you had an experience? But then he kept quiet. No, please, my dear sir, can you please tell some experience? Explain. He said, if I say the words, my experience, people will mistake because the words cannot communicate. They cannot understand the depth of it. But then they could not, they had to agree with him, but then they could not agree also because they see Buddha, the beauty that's there on his face, divinity that on his face, they could recognize. They said, sir, you have to say something. But then one elderly person, he came with a beautiful answer to Buddha saying that there are some, they said that they mistake your words, but then now they mistake your silence also, that you have nothing experienced. But even then, Buddha, all right, let them mistake my silence rather than mistaking my words, let them mistake my silence. But then one wise person came up and said, Buddha, that your experience is something extraordinary. There are some people who are eagerly waiting for having that kind of an experience, what you have. When some people are looking for that, if you are able to give your explanation, if they can give a little push into them, I know very well the words cannot communicate, but words can really give them a small little push so that it can get into experience. Then Buddha realized that he should do that. He started speaking about that. So Upanishad words are like this, that it's not that whether you just have to judge it whether right or wrong. You see that how I can get into that experience. If a rishi says, I see the divinity everywhere, is there a way that I can also experience that? There's a very important point about this experience. Because basically, I'm looking at this world, the whole world looks like horrible place, dirty place, lot of problems, lot of difficulties. But here is somebody who says this world is divinity. Now, what happens? There are two alternatives. One alternative is I can say the world is a horrible place and this man is mad, therefore he is talking something. It's meaningless. That means to say, I decided to be live in this hell only. I don't want to live in the heaven. Somebody is living in the heaven. So another person will think of it that, for me, this world looks so horrible. In what way I can improve myself, I can change myself in such a way, this whole world looks like God itself. Is there a way that I can make that? Such a person is a person who becomes a spiritual seeker, sadhaka. This is what is quest. When quest is there, you struggle for it, you look for it. Upanishad answer these questions. As I said, that there are several people who are giving this kind of a thing, rishis. They were at various places. So that's why in Upanishad we in the Vedas, there were only four Vedas. There were several Upanishads giving these particular knowledge. All of them are giving the same kind of knowledge because ultimate experience, whatever it may be, it is the same. It's the same. Peaks are the same. That's why these peaks, they are the people. One peak is Yajnavalkya, another peak is Vasishta, third peak is Pipalata. So the student would go them and discuss about that and get this idea. That's what these Upanishads are there. But as I said, it is a quest, it's an understanding, it is their experience. I said the words is so far away from the experience. Therefore, we have to really, really have some people who have that experience who can explain that. It's not so simple. That's why Upanishads are the toughest subjects. Very difficult to understand that. So we have to have various other texts which are there to translate that. So we have one of the important texts. There are more than 600 Upanishads that they say. Of all these Upanishads, the gist of it, Upanishad idea, in a simpler way is given in Bhagavad Gita. So that's what becomes the next important. It is experience. In fact, there the experience is indicated this way. It is not experience of divinity, not a human being. From that experience he talks. That's why basically Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita, when you look at it, when Dhritarashtra is asked a question that Vyasa says, Dhritarashtra Vacha. Sanjay is asking question, Sanjay Vacha. When Arjuna asks the question, Arjuna Vacha. But when Sri Krishna says, he says Bhagavan Vacha. That means to say the experience is different. Ordinary level, he must have been Krishna only. But moment when he comes to Bhagavad Gita, when he's rendering Bhagavad Gita, he must have had that extraordinary, wonderful experience. So is there a way that we can also reach that experience? So that is what is the motivation that we have. Even though Gita is supposed to be a simpler text from Bhagavad Gita, from the Upanishadic knowledge that is there, but even Gita itself is a tough subject. So that's why there are several literature that has been created in this culture. Now, apart from this culture, this extraordinary, wonderful thing, as I said, that culture has so many things that are there. So our people, to see that some wise people, some guiding people that they have created, and that's what is called as the Puranas. 18 Puranas are there, and wonderful literature that's also there, gives various ideas. And then these are Puranas are different from the history. They are not history books. But we have the history also. This 10,000 years of culture has a history. And those history books are the two histories that we have. One is the Ramayana, Itihasa, and the other is Mahabharata. It is also Itihasa. Itihasa. Sa means that, it happened. That's why it is called as ha. Iti. This way, with them, it happened. There's one person, and when or some group of people, they were there at that point of time. It happened. So what really in Itihasa, it is not the dates that are important. It's not the time period when it is important. But the most important thing is what happened to them. So that means to say the whole culture is based on what is called as the people's experience. There were people who have experienced. These experienced people become an icon for us. So that they beckon light, they lead us. They lead us in that direction. So therefore, we have earlier discussions, we have given the examples of Rama, examples of Krishna, examples of Bhishma or Karna. These are all the things, these are supposed to be the beacon lights for us. They guide us in that direction. They're all coming from the Itihasa. We have these Itihasas, 18 different Puranas are there. There are about 600 Upanishads, out of which about 10 Upanishads are the major Upanishads. These major Upanishads, 10 Upanishads they are major generally because Shankaracharya has given commentary on these Upanishads. Of all these Upanishads, Ishavasya Upanishad is the first Upanishad. Katha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Mundaka, Mandukya, like that in the order, these Upanishads are extraordinary texts. Brihadaranyaka, Chandogya. So there, Kaivalya Upanishad, these are all the Upanishads which are extraordinary. Wonderful knowledge. When they say that this major Upanishad and minor Upanishad, the knowledge is neither major nor minor. Every Upanishad has the same kind of knowledge. But why they call it as minor Upanishad is that in order to get a lot of information, that you go to the major Upanishads and you try to follow them, you try to adapt them in your day-to-day life. That itself is extraordinary. But as I said, these Upanishads are question answers. And such, as I said, it is quest. Seriously, student gets into the quest. In fact, in one of the Upanishads, the student, Sukesha, Bharadwaja, etc., they go to the teacher Pippalada and they say that we are Brahmanishta, Brahma this thing and all that thing we want to have an answer. And then that Pippalada says, Samvatsaram Samvatsataha, 1 year you go away. And then practice what is called as sadhana shat sampatti, blah, 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 all that. Then you come back. When you come back after 1 year, if you still have a question, then you'll come back. If you don't have a question, you will not come back. And if you come back with that question, if I have an answer, I will give you. That means what rigorous teachers were there, what rigorous students were there. So that means to say, it's not just only the questions, but the quest, that means to say, the deep, serious questions are taken up in this particular Upanishads. And now, apart from the Upanishad, there are so many other literature and other literatures are there. We'll get into that literature. We'll try to give all the ideas about that. Now, after these Upanishads and this literature, I will say how it went into the mankind in various ways, how many people have taken it forward. I will give you all the details about that in the future classes. After giving all that wealth of information that we have, then we get into the question of why this Dharma to be followed. Thank you so much. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And people can unmute. If you have questions, you can ask me. Or otherwise, you can write it in the chat box.
Any questions?
Okay, I think we can leave.
Yeah.
There are no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Raghav.
Thank you. Meet